The Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Hello, very good evening to you. Welcome to The Locker Room. You're watching us live on Independence Live and Indie Radio Live. We are joined tonight by myself, Mike McEwen, and I know what you're thinking to yourself. Why has Michael got on his papa's jumper? But there you go. But I'm getting old. It's because I'm wanting to be Graham Duffy. That's why I'm getting old. How are you, Graham?
Not too bad. Yourself, Michael?
Yeah. It's good to have you back on. Is Mr. Dave Smith. Anyway, so he big night of European action just finished just about 2 minutes ago, actually. Ibrox Stadium, where it finished Rangers 1, Limassol 1, and we'll be joined at 10:30, hopefully, by Josh. He's at the Rangers game tonight. He's coming back from Ibrox tonight. And also we might be joined by Regan Stevens back at the game tonight as well. And earlier on we had I thought it was actually I thought it was actually Christmas Day where I was watching that game between Aberdeen and it's Hell JK. It was not that game actually, considering the snow was on the park. That game finished 2 each. And so we're here until 11 o'clock. Get your comments coming in. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and all that kind of stuff. Graham, what do you think of tonight's action? Obviously, we'll go back to talk about the Rangers game, but what do you think of the Aberdeen game?
Yeah, I think for the first 40 minutes or so, I thought Aberdeen weren't great. I thought HJK looked very decent. And they probably could have been 4 or 5 up in that first 40 minutes, to be honest. And but for Kellerus, who I thought was outstanding again tonight, as he was against Rangers last weekend, he kept Aberdeen in that game. They go 2-0 down, and you think it's a long way back here. And it was. They were very poor defensively. But then, fair play to Angus MacDonald. It's an absolutely brilliant finish for his goal. And, goals change games. And that completely changed the game because it then made Barry Robson's team talk at halftime a little bit more easier than it would have been at halftime. I know it's a game that didn't really matter because Aberdeen were out anyway, and I think I can understand why he made as many changes as he did, but you could tell that it wasn't really working. He made a couple of changes at halftime and it made a difference. In the second half, I thought they were much better, Aberdeen. I thought they were far better. Looked more of a threat. They got the equaliser through Duke with a goal at the back post. But even after that, Helsinki had a couple of decent chances late on, and again, Roos has to make a couple of decent saves. But second half was a lot better for Aberdeen. I think they can take a lot of positives from that. And fair play to the travelling crowd that travelled there, because that looked freezing. I would rather them than me, because that looked Baltic. But yeah, it's a decent point for them. I know they couldn't qualify anyway, but the second half was better. But that first 40 minutes, they were so poor.
Yeah, no, exactly. And exactly. I thought they, Aberdeen done well, but I mean, going back to the goal that you said to me as well, McDonald, brilliant time to score, Graham, right on half time.
Yeah, and what a finish it was. And Aberdeen up until that point hadn't really created a lot. I kind of felt a bit sorry for the guy Gay up top. He's getting a lot of stick on Twitter. I can understand that a little bit. He didn't have his best game in that first half. And it's probably no surprise it ever came out for the second half. But that goal coming when it did. And what a finish as well for a centre-back. To take that the way he did It's a great first touch and a brilliant finish, and the keeper could do nothing about it. And it was a perfect time to score. Just about a few minutes before half time, it's a great time to score. And as I say, it just makes Barry Robson's team talk a little bit easier at half time, and it gave them a bit of a lifeline, because for that first 40 minutes, they weren't in the game. They were so poor, Aberdeen. I was surprised at how poor they were. But, the goal changes the game completely. But, as I said earlier on, fair credit to Kilruth, because that first 15, 20 minutes, he made about 3 or 4 very good saves. But for him, that could have been 4 or 5 quite easily, and the game's done. So, yeah, him and that finish from McDonald made a massive difference. In the second half, it's a lot better. Aberdeen looked a lot better on the ball, looked a lot more comfortable. They started to create a bit more going forward. They kind of hemmed Helsinki in a bit. And the second half was better. But, like I said, when you make 7 changes to a team, it can disrupt the flow of the game. And I thought it showed in the first half. Going forward, they didn't really create anything. Duke wasn't really getting in the game at all. And like I said, the guy up front as well, Gay, I thought he didn't really have his best game. But second half, it's a different game. And I think the Aberdeen fans deserve to see that second half, because to travel all that way in that horrible weather. And I said in the group chat after about 10 minutes, this game might get abandoned, because it just looks so ridiculous to play in that. So they managed to get the game finished, thankfully. But yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, no, exactly. I remember I was telling you about that as well, Graham, that years ago, I think Hearts played at Ibrox, I can't remember. And I think John Beaton was the ref and the game started. I don't know if you remember the game. It was a nighttime game. Can't remember what night it was.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And it was 15 minutes. I mean, why did they start that game in the first place? And the game get cancelled. But, I mean, why did they start that game tonight, Graham, as well? It's beyond me, because somebody took a serious injury in that game.
Well, there was one point in the second half, I think, after they came back on again. And I'm sure Stephen Craigan said before they came back on that he had heard that if the game is to get abandoned, it will be played tomorrow. I don't know how that would work, because Aberdeen have got a game on Sunday. How was that going to work? So, yeah, I didn't see that happening. It was a bit of a surprise the game did start. And I do remember that Hearts game, because that was, I think it was in the Championship, actually, when Hearts and Rangers went in the Championship. Because I remember it, because Ali Mostert, because it was 0-0 at the time, and Ali Mostert got a free kick for Hearts, and he hit the bar from about 40 yards, and then it got abandoned after that. And it should never have started. Right?
Nah.
And it was a bit like that tonight as well. But yeah, it was just, it looked a bit of a farce at first. And then they bring that device later on to clear the pitch, which I wouldn't mind having in my garden, to be honest. We could done with that, the way it is here. But yeah, it was very bizarre circumstances. But fair play to both teams. They managed to get the game restarted. And it was a decent game, to be honest, especially second half. It was much better.
It was a good
because
game,
first half, like I said, first half, Aberdeen they really weren't in the game at all. And like I said, but for Ruth, that could have been 4 or 5.
It was very a kind of open game as well, Graham.
Yeah, I mean, considering that it didn't really mean anything to certainly Aberdeen anyway, it was much more open than I thought. I thought Helsinki looked really good going forward. I mean, if you look at the game at Todra, they drew as well in that game. And again, I thought Helsinki looked a decent side. This was apparently the weakest team in the group. But I thought they looked decent going forward. I thought they had a lot of threat going forward, and they showed that in the first half. I thought they were really lively. But it was very open for a game that didn't really mean anything in terms of getting through. It was very open. And you've got to credit both teams for that, because to play decent football in those conditions was very hard, but they made it a decent game. And, I did think at one point, I thought the referee was trying to let the game flow as much as he could. But again, it's hard in those conditions, because you're making challenges that you're sliding about 40 yards to win the ball, because it's just that snowy on the pitch. So, yeah, I thought the referee actually did all right today as well. And for once, we're not talking about VAR, which is helpful.
It's actually very funny how you mentioned VAR there, because by the time that they cleared the pitch, that's how much time we have to wait for a decision in Scottish football. Maybe a bit longer than that. But from a TV point of view as well, I was at that, oh no, what's TNT going to do? Like, if they're going to abandon the game for like 10 minutes, what they're going to do? They're going to kill Ibrox to kick off 15 minutes later or 10 minutes later. So I thought that would have been quite interesting as well. But luckily enough, they kind of like got the game on as well. Duke kind of scored number 2 for Aberdeen as well, and I mean he's a good goal scorer for Aberdeen.
He's been, pardon the pun, but he's been frozen out recently for Aberdeen.
Ah, very good. Yes.
Just because of the weather, I couldn't help that. That just came up my head. Did you like that? But yeah,
I gagged. Yeah,
he has been frozen out a little bit because, understandably, because you've got a guy like Majowski who's got 11 goals this season and he's been brilliant. You know, you've got him on the bench to come on later. I thought Majowski actually had a chance late on in the game that I think he should score. It was about the last 2 minutes or something. He's taken his shot and it's really, really weak effort. You'd expect him to score. But yeah, I thought Duke worked hard tonight, but nothing was really coming off for him. He didn't really get a lot in the way of chances first half, but he's there at the back post to get that goal in the second half. And fair play to him, he's in the right place at the right time. But he's always been a really big player for Aberdeen. I like him. He's a really good player, and he is a goal scorer. But like I said, he's not really had many chances recently. If you look at the game against Rangers, they played Sockler and Majowski, and it did work. And then you've got both of them on the bench tonight. So Aberdeen have got a decent group of strikers there. And it does look like Duke is probably a bit further down the list than normal. But, you know, I thought he did okay tonight with what he got. But he's there to take his chance late on. And you actually saw it as well in the second half. I can't remember what point it was. But you saw him gesturing to Aberdeen fans to stop chucking snowballs on the pitch. Like him and Graham Shinnie were telling Aberdeen fans to stop chucking snowballs, which I thought was quite funny and very bizarre. But if you tell someone to stop doing something, they're going to do it though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The will not telling them to stop it, you know, because if you said that there, like if you tell somebody to stop it, especially a football fan, it's probably been in the pub for like 2 days. They're never going to stop it, are they not? You know,
it's like telling a child. It's like telling a child, don't do that. They're going to do it anyway. What are you telling them for?
I mean, I remember years ago I was at Fairhill and Celtic won the league there, and what did the PA announce, Graham, 5 minutes before the end of the game? Please do not run on.
Don't run on the pitch.
And what did we do? Yeah. You know, so yeah, maybe
you can't stop folk though.
Yeah, maybe they said run on the park and they wouldn't. Maybe like do the opposite as well. But I thought it was pretty funny as well because I thought I was at my office Christmas party when the teams went off as well, where they started playing Merry Christmas over the PA system.
Yeah, I did hear that. It was quite. You've got to keep the fans entertained somehow because it was quite a bit of a delay as well. And you know, fair play. Like I said, fair play to the players. They came back on. They put in a decent show. I thought the crowd was really good. Actually, it was a decent attendance tonight as well. And like I say, you've got to give credit to the Aberdeen fans that travelled there because those conditions were horrible. I'm sitting in my house with 2 jumpers on because I was freezing. Look at them over there. I mean, I couldn't have done that. It's far too cold.
Good evening to our pal Gregor. He is saying happy St Andrew's Day. So happy St Andy's Day, as they say in Scotland, to you as well. So thanks for watching on YouTube. Don't forget you can comment. We're here until 11 o'clock. We'll be speaking about. We haven't forgot about the Rangers game, by the way. We're going to speak about that when Josh comes on, hopefully in about 10:30, and hopefully we'll have Reagan as well. I wanted to speak about Jamie McGrath, Graham, because a brilliant free kick that he had in the second half.
Yeah, it was a bit unlucky. He scored one not that long ago, actually. He's a good player, McGrath. I've always rated him. He's someone that I would have liked at Hearts. He's a really good footballer. You know, he is a really good player. And he has been a really good player for Aberdeen. And he's a little bit lucky with that free kick, but he is a good player. And I thought he did well today, actually, when he came on as well. But he just needs to keep finding that consistency, because I think that's one thing about McGrath. Sometimes he's not consistent enough, but if he gets a decent run in the team and he keeps playing well, he's a really big player for Aberdeen. And I think they've got a lot of decent players, Aberdeen. I've said that before. They're probably false position in the league just now. It's just going to take a couple of wins and they'll be up that league as well. And I actually think if you look at their overall performance in this Conference League, they've not performed that badly. You know, again, a bit like Celtic in the Champions League.
Yeah.
I think Aberdeen should have more points than they've got. They've competed really well in every game. They've never been outplayed in any game. They probably should have more points than they've got. They should have beaten Pauk over both games, I think. They probably could have beat Helsinki over the 2 games, and they've been unlucky against Eintracht Frankfurt. So they have competed very well. You know, they'll be going away from this competition. They've got 3 points, I think it is. But they'll be going away frustrated that they've not picked up more points. And that's something that I think Robson and his team will learn from, because they have got better with every game. Like I said, tonight, they've made 7 changes. It was difficult, but they've managed to fight back and get a respectable draw. But I genuinely think they should have more points than they've got in this group, because I think they have performed very well.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think about Celtic as well, because if you think about the games, like Celtic and Aberdeen should have won more. But I mean, that's own downfall, Graham. I mean, you did see it the other night as well in the Celtic game. Obviously, we'd done the show. And I know I spoke to you tonight. I mean, Celtic played well. And it's just basic mistakes. And that's what Aberdeen kind of make as well. But I mean, we could have been sitting here saying Aberdeen could have won the game, because my Offstay had a brilliant chance with 2 minutes to go for winning the game for Aberdeen tonight.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you want that to fall to anybody in that position, it's Majowski, and it's a weak effort. It's quite a tame effort from him. You're thinking once he gets that ball, when I see it goes to Majowski, I'm thinking this is a goal, and he just doesn't strike it cleanly enough. For a guy that's got 11 goals this season, you're expecting better. But, you know, I've talked numerous times on the show about moments in games. Celtic have had plenty, so have Aberdeen. You look back at that game against Pauk at Pittodrie, when they should have got a penalty. You know, we had John Blaisdell on after that, and he was raging about that. And then obviously they lose the game through a penalty late on. So there are moments in games that I think Aberdeen have been a little bit unfortunate not to win them. So I think that's where Robson's got to take a lot of credit. I think Aberdeen have performed very well, because I'll be honest, when the group was drawn, Eintracht Frankfurt, Pauk, Helsinki, it was a tough group. But Aberdeen have performed really well, but they've just not taken their chances when they come along. And at this level as well, as you'll know with Celtic, if you don't take your chances, you will get punished at this level. And unfortunately, Celtic have been, Rangers have been, Aberdeen have been. And this is the thing about Scottish clubs in Europe. You know, it is really difficult, because again, we're sitting here on a Thursday night after all our teams have played in Europe and not one of them have won. So it's a bit of a disappointment, but I think Aberdeen have performed well tonight. I really do.
I mean, Aberdeen's out anyway. They've got one more game to come, but like, I was thinking that it's good experience for Aberdeen as a team to be in Europe, but also Barry Robson as well, because don't forget, this is his first job being as manager of Aberdeen, and also I will stand him in good stead if they, you know, qualify for next season's European competitions.
Yeah, definitely. And I think once you've been there once, and I know this as a Hearts fan because we were there not that long ago, you want to get back to that again. You want to have these European nights. You want to be travelling away to places like Helsinki and Frankfurt and Greece and stuff. You want to be taking these games on. So I do think it is going to be a learning curve for these Aberdeen players, and you want to get back to that again next season. That's why finishing third and fourth is so important. And again, I think if Aberdeen had won tonight, I'm sure I read this before I came on actually. If Aberdeen had won tonight, they got £430,000 for winning tonight, which is a huge amount. But they've not quite managed to do it. But you want to get back there again. You know, you want to get back there again next season. And I'm trying to find some comments here. So Aberdeen defender Angus McDonald said, we probably showed them too much respect first 20 minutes. But as soon as the goal went in, everything started to change. We look back and kick ourselves as we should have taken more from both games and should have been qualifying. And that's what I've said. I think Aberdeen should have more points than they've got, because I think they have done very well in every game, but they've just not taken their chances when they've come.
Yeah, do you not just hate football players when they come out and speak about, oh, we should have done that and we should have done that, and you're like that, well, why did you not do that during the game then? But yeah, I mean, it took Aberdeen a wee while to heat up tonight. I think it was because of the weather, but I mean, they got to go before half time, and how many times have I told you, Graham, that's a brilliant time to score a goal, because you're going in at half time buoyant, could come out for the second 45.
Yeah, I think if they go in 2-0 down at half time, it's probably a different game. And I actually thought Robson might have made more changes at half time, but he's made the 2 changes at half time, and they've made a difference, I think. They've made them a bit more attacking, they've pressed a lot higher up the park. There was actually a chance in the second half as well. I can't remember if it was still 2-1 or 2-2 at the time, but Sockler closes down, wins the ball back, and him and Duke kind of get in each other's way. Yeah. I think it's eventually Duke that was the shot.
And I
but
think
they
had
did
one
look better second half.
Yeah. I think they had one for the corner kick as well, Graham, between him and
Yeah, they pressed a lot higher second half, and I think Robson did obviously get into that half time, and rightly so, because when you've got that kind of travelling support there, and you've not really done them justice, you're going to have a go at them in that half time, and they did come out a lot better. They did come out a lot quicker, a lot better tempo, and they got after Helsinki. And you saw what happens when they got in Helsinki's face. They started to cause problems. So it did actually make a massive difference. But yeah, I just think that at this level, you've got to take the chances when they come along. And like I said, Aberdeen could have been sitting in a much more comfortable place if they'd taken the chances. And I just go back to that chance that Majowski had late on. He should have scored. If he scores that, Aberdeen are walking out that with 3 points, but he's not taking it.
Scared of that, and they walked out the game with a snowman. I don't know about any money after that game, kind of Graham. But yeah, I mean, all in all, it's been a decent kind of campaign for Aberdeen. But yeah, I mean, Aberdeen fans would be kicking themselves as well. I mean, they come back into the game when that they kind of got the equaliser, but I mean, any decent team they would have been out of sight by half time.
Yeah, I actually think Helsinki probably should have been 4 or 5 up in that first 20 minutes. The chances they had. And like I say, Ruth keeps Aberdeen in that game. I thought Ruth again. I actually think he's quite an underrated goalkeeper. I really rate him very highly. He's a really good goalkeeper. And Aberdeen have had a lot of good goalkeepers in the past, but I think Ruth is right up there. As I say, he made some brilliant saves against Rangers, kept Aberdeen in the game, and he's done the same tonight. And I think, but for him, I think Helsinki could have been easily 4 or 5 up early on. And then, obviously, after that, it gives Aberdeen a bit more confidence. And, I mean, honestly, that finish from McDonald's was just such a brilliant, brilliant goal. You don't see many defenders doing that. Like I say, the touch that he takes and then the finish, it's a brilliant strike. And it does give Aberdeen that bit of a lift because they needed something. It was going to be a mistake or something special to get them back in the game because they weren't really doing enough in that first half. But again, like I keep going back to, when you make 7 changes, it is going to be difficult. You're not going to get up to speed straight away. And I think you saw that. You saw that early on, that they couldn't really adjust to the game. The players that they brought in just weren't shown enough. He makes a change to that half time and it makes a difference. And second half, I did think they were better. But like I said, I did think Helsinki had a couple of chances late on in the game to maybe win the game. So it is a learning curve for Aberdeen. And they'll want to get back there next season. But they've got to start picking that league form up. And I think, again, I understand why Robson made the changes, because he's got Hibs on Sunday, Easter Road, which is a big, big game. They were already out of Europe, so I can understand why he made the changes.
Obviously, we'll speak about the Rangers game in a wee minute or two. And to me, I don't know about you, Glenn, but to me, obviously, they grew against Limassol, by the way, because in case you've missed the game tonight, the game finished 1-each, and that was a decent game as well. But I think Rangers would be a bit disappointed between Sunday and tonight, picking up 2 points. But in the opposite way, I think Aberdeen would be pretty pleased with their performance, apart from that penalty, that kind of non-penalty they gave away on Sunday.
Yeah, I think they've done well, Aberdeen. Again, I thought when we did the show on Sunday, I thought Aberdeen, they were decent first half, but then second half, Rangers came back into the game and probably could have won the game in the end, but for Belarus. And then they've gone away to Helsinki, a really difficult place to go in that horrible weather. They've made a lot of changes, but they've managed to get a point. At 2-1 down, they could have thought, we probably won't get back in this game, but they've not. They've managed to get themselves level. They've got a decent point away from home, but they've now got to build on that. They'll make a lot of changes on Sunday against Hibs, expectedly so. And they've got to go again, because you want to get back to playing European football. I think European football is really important to teams. I want Hearts to get there, obviously. Dave, I want Aberdeen to get there. European football is just something really different. I've loved doing these shows the last couple of seasons. It's been great, although results have not been overly impressive for Scottish teams. But I think Aberdeen have done well. And like I said, I think this Conference League has been good for them. It's been a learning curve. But if they get back there next season, I think they'll learn lessons about how to play in this competition. Because like I keep saying, they should have more points than they've got. I genuinely think they should have far more points than they've got. But it's just about taking that experience, learning from it, and then if they get there next season, going again. Because, Eintracht Frankfurt are a decent side. PAOK are a good side. I know, because I've seen them play against Hearts. And Aberdeen have competed really well against all of them. So I think they can be proud of what they've done in this competition.
I don't know if you had Barry Robson's comments yesterday, Graham, but he was saying that, okay, we're out of Europe, but we want to put on a performance for the fans. Now, I know that they had a decent point tonight, but I think Barry Robson's got a kind of dilemma on his hands, because after Frankfurt at home, then they've only got 2 days to prepare for the cup final. So do you think that? What do you think he'll do for these kind of the Frankfurt game anyway?
It's a tough one, but I think he's probably going to do exactly what he did tonight. I think he'll.
Yeah.
I think he'll make a lot of changes for that game, because the cup final is a more important game. Let's be honest.
Yep.
You're already out of Europe. So as much as you maybe want to try and get points off Frankfurt, as much as you might want to try and take points off Frankfurt and kind of give the fans, the kind of last hurrah, if you like, the cup game's more important. That's one that they can look forward to and think they can win. Because if you look at the record against Rangers, they beat them towards the end of last season under Barry Robson. And then this season, they've won at Ibrox and got a point at Pittodrie. They've got a decent record against Rangers. So they'll go into that game at Hampden thinking, we can win this. So I honestly think Barry Robson will make a number of changes for that Frankfurt game, because the cup final is far more important. And the cup final is a game they could easily win. So I think he'll make a lot of changes.
Yeah, because Rangers has not beat Aberdeen. What is it for? Like 3 games now. So Rangers will be be a bit of squeaky bum time going into the cup final. Well, it would be anyway, because it's a cup final, but even more so that Aberdeen's beaten them the last 2 games.
Yeah, and it will be that kind of thing about, right, we've not beaten Aberdeen for a few games now. How do we beat them now? And Aberdeen won't change the way they play. Even at Hampden, they won't change the way they play. They'll be resolute. They'll be difficult to beat. They'll try to hit on the counter-attack with Majowski's pace up front. And they'll look for kind of free kicks and set pieces to try and cause problems. Rangers have then got to try and find a way to break through that, which they've not managed to do so far, unless you get penalties, of course. But we'll not go into that. But it'll be interesting, that final. I think it'll be a decent game. And I genuinely think Aberdeen have got a chance. Honestly do. Aberdeen could easily win that Viaplay Cup. But that's why I think they will make changes for that Frankfurt game. And I think Aberdeen, if I'm an Aberdeen fan, I've got to be expecting that. You have to be expecting to make changes because the cup final's the bigger game.
And Aberdeen could go down in history, Graham, because they would be the last team to win the Viaplay Cup, because I don't think it'll be called the Viaplay Cup next season. And maybe actually change back to the Premier Cup. You know, as rumours are right that we heard last night. But anyway, let's leave that to the conspiracy theories. If Paul Donaldson's watching this, or maybe he's away to the game, maybe he's building the snowman, I don't know. But you can comment if you're watching the show, or comment on the show when we're watching it back, and we can see your comments as well. But yeah, I mean, 20, you know, about 35 minutes, 40 minutes into the game, it was all Aberdeen came back into the game with a Brown goal, you know, and it set them up for the second half. I was going to ask you as well, Glenn, when the teams went off to build a snowman, I don't know if they did for about 50 minutes. Do you think the break actually worked in Aberdeen's favour, because they came back kind of because it up until that point, Graham, Aberdeen kind of fell out the game?
Yeah, it probably did help, actually. And maybe their Aberdeen fans chucking snowballs and might have helped as well. But yeah, I think it probably did help them a little bit. And I think I used the word in the group chat in the first half. It was too easy for Helsinki. It was just for Aberdeen weren't making challenges. They weren't getting close to Helsinki players. It was just too easy. And I think you'd actually used the same word as well in the group chat.
Yeah.
It was too easy. But they got better. And let's be honest, they had to. You know, if I'm an Aberdeen player and I'm looking at those Aberdeen fans behind that goal that have travelled all that way, I know I need to be better. And they were. And I think that break probably did help. I mean, I'm surprised that actually took that long to take the players off the pitch, because the pitch was like that for pretty much all the game. So yeah, I think it probably did help breaking it up a little bit. And then they came back and they were decent, Aberdeen. But I keep going back to the fact that Helsinki did have chances late on to win that game. There's a glorious chance late on that the guys put over the bar when he should score. So both teams could have won it. But, you know, a point's not a bad result. Away from home, in those conditions, with the changes they made, a point's not a bad result. But they want to get back to Europe again next season. And there's no denying they could do it. Hopefully they don't, because I want Hearts to get there. But they could get back there again next season, and they will learn lessons from tonight and the other games they played.
Okay, so the final score was in the snowball game tonight. It's JK Helsinki 1, Aberdeen. No, it's Helsinki 1, 2, Aberdeen 2. I was looking at the Rangers game actually. So there you go. And I get back Christmas music at the game as well. Not even December yet, but anyway. Let's move on to the game. It finished about half an hour ago. Ibrox. It wasn't snowing there, but it must have been freezing at the game actually. Aberdeen. There we go. Rangers 1, Limassol 1, and this was not a bad game as well, Graham.
Very decent game. You know, if you go back to the game in Cyprus not that long ago, I thought Limassol were a decent side, and apparently, according to the TV before the game, this was the weakest side in the group. I don't think Limassol looked particularly weak to me. I thought it looked a very good side, and especially going forward, they had a lot of pace like they did in that first game, and they caused Rangers a lot of problems in that first half. And you could see the crowd were getting really frustrated, because I think a lot of folk thought Rangers turn up tonight and win the game, and if they won, then they were through to the next round. But Limassol made it very difficult. And, you know, that change in 35 minutes when they took Todd Cantwell off, I can understand why he did it, to bring McCausland on, and it worked, because McCausland that second half was fantastic. He's a really good player. He gets the goal. But again, it could have gone either way. I thought it was very open second half, because again, Limassol had to win to get through or to have any chance of going through. So it made it very open. But Rangers again just they just don't have that clinical edge for me. Again, I thought Sam Lammers was really poor again. I thought he could have got taken off earlier than he did. Danilo missed a couple of chances. Obviously, Todd Cantwell got taken off early. Their bright spark was McCausland. He was the one that was causing all the problems. But they just didn't do enough to win that game, I don't think. And again, Limassol for me looked a very decent side.
Yeah, I'm actually quite surprised that they're out of Europe, Glenn, because they look not a bad side. Obviously, I've not saw them the whole tournament. I've just saw them tonight and the game over there against Rangers as well. But I was going to ask you the same question. I know I was asking you about Aberdeen, a decent week for them, but do you think it would be the opposite for Rangers in terms of going up to Aberdeen, not kind of like perform for like 45 minutes? Okay, they got out of jail with a penalty. And the game tonight at home against the bottom of the group, and they failed to beat them. I know for the fans' reaction was at the end of the game, they were booing. So do you think Rangers would be a bit annoyed about this week's games?
Yeah, I think so, especially the Aberdeen game, because we know that 24 hours before that, Celtic can only draw against Motherwell. So that gave Rangers a really big opportunity to close the gap, and they failed to do it. I thought second half they were far better side, to be honest. I thought they should have beaten Aberdeen quite comfortably. And then tonight you're thinking at home, a chance to qualify for the knockout stages, and they've just failed to deliver. And Gregor says Rangers are essentially carrying the coefficient for Scotland, and they are. And I mean, they are still in Europe, but they've got it. They've got to go to Spain now against Betis, and they've got to get something and hope that Sparta Prague don't beat Limassol to qualify. So tonight's a massive missed opportunity for them. And I just thought first half, it's weird because you're thinking for a team that knows that they could qualify, I thought they came out a little bit flat in that first half. They didn't play with a lot of tempo, a lot of energy. It looked like they just thought they had to turn up to win the game, and they didn't. And they got a massive shock because Limassol looked very good going forward. They get that goal. And actually, Cantwell's at fault for that first goal. He tries a daft wee trick. It doesn't work. Limassol counter, and they score. Now, I don't know if that has basically swayed Clement to take him off, but he could have taken 3 or 4 players off in that first half because Rangers were so poor. But fair play to Ross McCausland, because anytime I've seen him, he's looked really lively. He's looked really dangerous, and that's his first goal for Rangers, a really good goal as well. And second half, Rangers were better, but that's now 2 games in a row, and they've drawn both games that they would expect to win. So it's maybe not what Clement and Rangers fans want. And you're right, you could tell the Rangers fans were not happy booing the team off the park, and I get it, because when you're Rangers or you're Celtic and you don't win at home, it is a frustration.
I mean, apart from the goal, Graham, and it was a brilliant goal from McCausland. I think we'll see more and more, maybe at the weekend, and maybe the game in 2 weeks will win Betis. Maybe he will start the game or come on as a sub. I don't think he'll get the full game, but I think apart from the goal, I've only written down here one decent chance for Rangers, and that was Lundstrom in the first half.
Yeah, and even then, before the goal, Butland's got to make a really good save as well from the left-hand side.
Yeah.
It was a really good save. So Limassol did look dangerous, but going forward, Rangers just didn't really carry a lot of threat. I thought Sima, again, looked dangerous on the left-hand side, but didn't really create enough. They didn't look potent enough going forward. It's the same problem that I think Celtic have got at times as well, where if Kyogo's not scoring, they just don't look like they're going to score. And it's the same for Rangers tonight. You know, Kemar Roof was on the bench. Danilo, I think, is a good player, but I just don't think he's clinical enough. Like I said, I don't rate Lammers. I don't think he's good enough. Dessers, for me, isn't good enough. And they just don't have that clinical edge going forward. And, you know, it's a decent job that they had McCausland tonight, because apart from him, I thought they really lacked that spark. He was the only one that really looked like he was going to cause problems. And he was unlucky not to add to his goal. I think he had a couple of decent chances, but yeah, McCausland looked their only real threat. And that's got to be a concern for Clement, that they just don't look like they're going to score enough goals. You know, obviously they've had the penalty against Aberdeen, which I think was a penalty. But apart from that, they're not doing enough going forward.
I know Clermont's come in and they beat Hearts, obviously, but we could spend a whole hour talking about that game. I think it all goes back to that penalty barrier for me in that game. Because Rangers didn't look like scoring, never mind winning that game. But do you think that like the style of play has changed between Michael Beale or even before Michael Beale came in till now? Do you think it's like the same?
It's hard because I think Clermont is trying to get a bit more pace in the team. But for me, the biggest problem is that they don't have a natural finisher. Probably came a Roos about their best option going forward, and he didn't start tonight. I think Danilo does a lot of decent work, but he doesn't look clinical enough for me. And like I said, Lammers and Dessers for me just don't look good enough for me. Now, I don't know what Josh would think. I don't know if he's coming on or not, but I just don't think they look clinical enough going forward. I think he is trying to get a style of football in there and try and change it, but it is difficult because obviously Michael Beale was there for a while. It's difficult to try and change to a new style overnight, and he's still trying to get to know his players. He's still trying to get to know his team. He's obviously needs a transfer window. I think he needs probably 2 or 3 transfer windows to get that sorted. You know, he brings on Matondo later on in the game, who I think is a good player, but again, maybe doesn't offer enough goals. So that's the thing, and you mentioned it there. You talk about the penalties they've had recently, and I think you're right. Apart from those penalties they've had against Hearts, they didn't look like scoring. Against Aberdeen, they didn't look like scoring. Tonight, they didn't look like scoring until McCausland came on. So there is that thing that they're having a lot of possession, as you'd expect, but they're not doing a lot with it. And that's the problem that they've got. They're not doing a lot with it.
And I think it make for a very open game as well, Glenn, because Limassol, they were a bit shaky at the back at times, but going forward, I mean, they could score goals.
Yeah, I thought Limassol were really good. Again, we saw the game in Cyprus, and they were so quick going forward on the counter-attack. Yeah. And it was the same tonight. You know, they were happy to let Rangers have the ball because they're at Ibrox. They weren't going to have a lot of possession, and then hit on the counter-attack, and they did it quite a few times where they broke forward at pace. And if they just were a bit more clinical going forward, they could have caused a problem for Rangers tonight. I thought Suter and Davis struggled at times tonight with the ball over the top or in behind. I actually thought Suter did okay at times tonight. But you look at that, look at the first goal. It's a decent ball in behind, but Rangers get caught flat-footed. You know, Davis and Suter just get completely caught. And it's a decent finish by the boy. Goes round Butland and finishes it well. But Limassol look really good going forward. And I think you're right. I'm surprised that they're out of Europe because I thought they looked a decent side. But again, a bit like Rangers, a bit powder puff going forward. If they had a finisher, they could have caused Rangers a lot of problems tonight, I think.
Let's speak about the man. It's going to get all the headlines, and I take it he'll get the man of match. Ross McCausland, he come on for Rangers, and I think he'll have a big future at Ibrox. You know, people is bigging them up, and I know why they're bigging them up, but that's his only second or third game, and he's still kind of like a young boy, you know. I'm not saying that it will be that, you know, another kind of Rangers great, but he's still a boy, Graham, you know. It says, and did I hear that right on telly tonight about giving him a new deal? I think like the Rangers fans are kind of maybe going over the top a wee bit, I'm not sure, but hopefully Josh will be able to tell us the answer in a few minutes. He is coming on as well. But as you said, Graham, if it wasn't for Ross McCausland, then maybe Rangers would have got a point. Maybe they would have won the game. You never know. Somebody used to say it's ifs, buts, or maybes. But I mean, he played well tonight, and they dominated the side when they come on.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 20, but anytime I've seen him, he's looked really dangerous. The only kind of downside for him, for me, was that dive against Livingston. But listen, he's a young laddie, and he's going to learn from that. But anytime I've seen him, he's looked a real threat. I mean, for a 20-year-old to play at Ibrox in a European game like that, and he didn't look faced. He looked like he was like he wanted the ball, and that's what I like about young players. See, some like experienced players, they hide, they don't want the ball. McCausland wanted it. He was like, "Give me it. I'm going to make things happen," and he did. I thought McCausland was by far Rangers' best player tonight. Given the fact he came on after 35 minutes, he was the best player. He was the biggest outlet, and you know, I think it was Stephen, our colleague Stephen, had put on Twitter and put in the group chat as well about Todd Cantwell. At times, I think Cantwell looks all right, but again, he flatters to deceive for me at times. I don't know what he's offering. I really don't. So it was probably no surprise that he came off. But fair play to McCausland, because I think he looks a really, really good player.
Reagan said as well, it's because a pity he's not Scottish. Because he would come in handy for the Euros.
He definitely would, Michael. I mean, he's been a really good player, Ross McCausland. I was just hoping he was Scottish, but my uncle told me the other day that he's Irish, so no, it's a bit of a shame, but yeah, he really changed the game tonight for Rangers. It's good to be on, boys. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, no, I'm delighted to have you on, Reagan, as always. Just talking about the Rangers game tonight. What did you think of all? I mean, I was sitting there, Glenn, before he came on. I'm surprised that Limassol's out of Europe as well, because they're a decent team.
Yeah, I thought they looked pretty decent, but I don't know if you guys have touched on it, but I really thought it was for Philippe Clement's worst game as Rangers manager. I thought the team just looked well off it. I think he said in his press conference that Seaman's wife was having a baby. Tom Lawrence wasn't up to speed. He mentioned a few things. I just thought that the team wasn't that great. I can't remember actually one proper chance for the full 90 minutes. I sat and watched the full 90 minutes. And I didn't think there was that many clear-cut chances, guys, to be honest.
I think the only chance I had to note, Reagan, was John Lundstrom's chance in the first half, and that was all.
There was one chance when they got to 1-1 where Ross McCausland could have made it 2-1 when he jumped by a few players and then he almost scored. And then there was the one chance where Ross McCausland puts the ball through for Danilo. Don't you remember it, Graham? He puts the ball through for Danilo, and if Danilo gets a wee touch, then he's scored. But it's a big task now to go over to Seville, and I've been over to Seville. A big task over there. It's really hot over there, so it'll be a big task for Rangers to go over there and get the 3 points. But I suppose the good thing for the coefficient, don't know if you guys are aware of it, but they've secured themselves European football after Christmas anyway.
I was saying to Glenn before you come on, Reagan, and when we were talking about Aberdeen, but do you think that the Rangers fans and Philip Clement will be a bit disappointed with this week in terms of like Aberdeen when they went up and got a point, and tonight they got a point at home where they should have won that game? And I mean, you heard the fans' reaction at the end of the game.
Yeah, I was listening to Kerry Miller on the radio before, just when I was getting myself sorted there, Michael, on the computer. But I mean, and to me, it really just shows this was a massive week for Rangers in terms of closing that gap for an unexpected point from Celtic against Motherwell when Celtic they played terrible against Motherwell. It was a perfect opportunity for Rangers to show the ball, to go up to Aberdeen and get the 3 points, because I'm sure you guys will agree, if you want to win a title, you need to go to places like Pittodrie and win. So, for me, it's really disappointing from a Rangers point of view, because they've not shown that bottle, and that'll be a big worry for Rangers fans, because they're going into a place where they're going into the cup final in 2 weeks' time, where I'm telling you, if Philip Clement doesn't win this cup final, the one side of Glasgow will be absolutely devastated, because that's all Rangers fans are clinging on to at the minute, and they're in a cup final. Because, as Alan McCoy would say, make no mistake about it, this cup final is a big a big chance for Rangers to put a marker down.
And I know that before you come on, Reagan, I was asking Graham a question about, do you see any differences in the team in terms of the style of play between Beale's team and Clement's team? And okay, he's come in and beat Dundee, what is it, 5-0 or whatever, but he's played like Hearts at home where they could have maybe got beat that day or could have got a point. Everything goes back to the penalty, and they went up to Aberdeen and got a point, and they were lucky to get a point up at Aberdeen as well. But you were saying, Graham, that he needs 2 or 3 transfer windows. Well, as we saw with Malcolm Mackay and other managers, you don't get that now in the Scottish game. You're lucky if you can get 1 transfer window.
So sorry, Graham, you coming in there?
I thought he was asking you.
No.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I was. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit sad that David Martindale is the longest serving manager, because that just shows you how fickle football fans can be. I mean, I said on this show about 2 years ago
Yep.
that David Martindale was going to be sacked, and now he's the longest serving manager in Scottish football. So what
Yeah,
is
don't
that,
worry.
Joe?
Don't worry, we've clipped that one up, Reagan. That's for the Christmas special. But yeah, I mean, as I mean, but no, I mean, I know what you're saying, Graham, right? But I mean, if Rangers doesn't win the cup final, and they get beat against Celtic, I'm afraid for Clermont might be under a bit of pressure, Graham.
Yeah, I think it probably will be. We all know what it's like in Glasgow. You have to win the league, you have to win cups. And I think what Reagan says about the Viaplay Cup final, I mean, if Rangers win that, it'll be a massive, massive blow. And what I said about Clermont probably needing 2 or 3 transfer windows, I know that you don't get that much time in Glasgow. You have to basically be at it straight away. But I think he needs to get the team that he wants. I don't believe for a minute that most of those players at Rangers just now are the players that Clermont wants. So he's got to get rid of a few of them. He's then got to bring his own players in, try and get that style of football. But they've got to win games. And like I said earlier, they would have gone into that game against Aberdeen on Sunday knowing with Celtic having dropped points 24 hours earlier, it's a chance to close the gap, and they blew it. You can't afford to do that in this league. You've got to pick up these points. And I think Clermont at the moment, I don't think he's under masses of pressure. The fact that he's still in Europe after Christmas is great. But I think for me, they have to win that cup. If they win that cup, he'll buy himself a lot more time. But if Aberdeen want to win that game, and like I said earlier, I think Aberdeen could win that. If Aberdeen want to win that, it'll be a massive, massive blow to Clermont and to Rangers as well.
I suppose that's a point in question, Reagan, that for Clermont to come in and really it's not his team. He's just managing the team, but it's still technically Michael Beale's team. You can argue that the fact that the only player is coming to the squad under for Clermont, and I need to double check this one, is Ross McCall. Crossing, because he's not had a first game under Beale or Van Bronckhorst or whatever. So really, you would say that's the only player he's kind of brought into the team. Is it where Reagan? I don't know.
I'd say that's probably fair. Michael, sorry, I'm in mid-cough there, but I mean, in terms of what he's done so far, I think his report card's looking pretty good. But I think that game in Seville is now a big task, because we know Seville are known for their teams in Europe. Real Betis and Seville, they're known to get to the latter stages, and I'm sure Manuel Pellegrini, he's a well-served manager. He's won things at Man City. He did okay with West Ham, so he knows his way around the game, and I'm sure he'll get the players fired up for it. But this is a game where Rangers will be right fired up themselves. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about Aberdeen there, Graham. I just found it funny earlier. There was 4 tractors on the park
Hmm.
cleaning up the snow.
Reagan, I thought you were going to say that I'm used to seeing you go to Park Hig and Ibrox and parking 10 buses behind the ball, but now that you park 2 crackers behind the ball.
Aye, I think I'll be using that now, Michael. It's not the 10 buses that you always say have been parked. I think the interesting thing about Aberdeen is I tend I actually think they've had a really good campaign. I don't know you and Graham, but I think they've had a really good campaign. I mean, I was at the Helsinki game. They should have won at home. The Pal game, they were winning 2-1, and then they should have had a penalty. And then Pal scored in the last minute with 2 goals. So,
Mm.
and then the Frankfurt game, they were 1-0 up and got beat 2-1. So you look at all these games. I think in terms of Aberdeen, and I know I'm going over. I think you probably spoke about it, guys, but I think Aberdeen's had a very good campaign, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying that as well, weren't we, Graham? In fact, I think we've been saying that when we've covered the games, when we've come on from to cover the Aberdeen games.
Yeah, I said it earlier. I think Aberdeen should have more points than they've got. I think they've been very unlucky, but it's like I said earlier on, Reagan. I said to Michael, it's a bit like Celtic. When they've had big moments in games, they've not taken them. If you look back, I listened to the show on Tuesday when I got back, and I heard you and Michael talking about, the Celtic game. And I think second half, Celtic had a couple of decent chances. Kyogo, just after the break, drags it wide. You got the chance for Yang at the back post. He probably could do better. So it's these big moments in games, you've got to take them, especially against these teams in Europe. Because if you don't, and they get 1 or 2 chances, they'll score. Like Immobile did, 2 goals in a minute. And that's the difference at this level. You've got to take these chances. And I think Aberdeen have found out as well. They've had chances tonight. They've had chances in every other game. And they've just not been clinical enough. And then you make one mistake at the other end and you get punished. That's the level you're up against.
I think the chance as well, Graham, in the last minute that Miovski has as well through 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, that's a massive chance for them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I said that before you come on, Reagan, because we could have been sitting here saying
It's
Aberdeen
like Reagan's listening to me.
Yeah, no, exactly. But we could have been sitting here saying Aberdeen won the first game in Europe tonight. Instead of that, they were frozen out, pagging the punt. But yeah, that was a brilliant chance that Miovski had in the last kick of the ball tonight as well.
Here's a question for you, right? I know we've got a couple minutes to go, but I said it. Here's a question for you. A couple minutes to go, I know, but here's a quick question for you, right? That is yet again another game, another week where Scottish teams haven't won in Europe. I mean, what's it going to take for Scottish teams to actually win these games in European football?
Investment. Also, I think, as I said to Michael, you watched the Helsinki players tonight. Every tackle they were doing, they were surrounding the ref. We don't seem to do that. We don't seem to. Even the Irish players, they were going down all the time when they were buying free kicks. I'm not saying that we should cheat. What I'm saying is like the way Celtic were playing against Lazio. Joe Hart was kicking the ball out slowly, and then he was playing the ball straight out to midfield really quick. That's not what you do in Europe. In Europe, you need to be a more measured approach.
Yeah, no, definitely, yeah. Finances, Graham, but also stop making stupid mistakes and cut their mistakes out, But there you go. I could go into more detail, but we've only got a few minutes left, Graham. You'll get that answer tomorrow night in the show. If I remember the question that is. Thanks for everybody watching the show. Thanks to Reagan coming in for the night shift, and thanks to Graham. As always, we'll be back tomorrow night between 5 and 7. And don't forget, we'll be back on Saturday as well for the big Euro draw. And I think we're on Sunday as well. between 3 and 5. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.